Have you ever had this experience? You sit down at your desk telling yourself, "Today, I must focus." But after an hour passes, you've only written 2 lines of notes. Somehow, you ended up scrolling through your phone and watching 10 short videos. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? The truth is, this doesn't mean you're lazy, nor does it mean you lack willpower. The real reason is that our brain simply isn't being used in the way it works best. Psychological research tells us that focus and learning efficiency aren't about brute force or endless self-discipline. They can actually be improved by understanding a few scientific principles. Today, I'm going to share with you 7 classic psychological effects. They're not complicated theories, but practical tools. And once you apply them, you'll realize that learning can become more efficient, longer lasting, and surprisingly easier. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Imagine you're at a lively party. The music is loud, people are chatting everywhere, voices overlap in every direction. But suddenly, someone calls your name, and instantly, you hear it clearly. This is known as the cocktail party effect. It shows that our brain has a built-in filter that highlights information related to us, even when we're not consciously paying attention. Now, think about what this means for learning. If the knowledge you're trying to absorb has no personal connection to you, your brain often treats it as background noise. But if the information feels relevant to your life, it suddenly stands out. For example, when studying the economic concept of supply and demand, the definition may feel abstract. But if you link it to buying concert tickets, say, a famous Idol's tickets sell out instantly and resellers jack up the price, you'll immediately see how high demand and low supply works in real life. That personal link makes your brain bold the memory, making it far harder to forget. So, when you study, try attaching a personal tag to new knowledge. Think of project management as planning your next vacation, or imagine psychological theories playing out in your relationships with friends. Once knowledge is tied to your life, your brain naturally keeps it. Here's a small exercise. Pick 3 unfamiliar terms today and force yourself to connect each of them to something in your everyday life. You'll notice they no longer feel cold and distant, but vivid and memorable. Our brain's attention is limited. It works like a spotlight on stage. Only one actor can be illuminated at a time. When the spotlight shines here, everything else fades into the background. That's why multitasking often backfires. You might be replying to messages while reading a book, thinking you're being efficient. But in reality, your spotlight keeps shifting. Each switch consumes energy, making you slower and less accurate. So, what can you do? Here are 3 strategies. 1. Pomodoro technique. Set a timer for 25 minutes and focus on only one task. During this time, don't check your phone, don't switch windows, just keep the spotlight on one actor. After the timer rings, take a short 5-minute break. This way, your concentration becomes more intense and sustainable. 2. Clearing ritual. Before you begin, clear your desk, put your phone away. Create a clean environment that signals to your brain, this is the only task that matters right now. It's like keeping only one actor on stage and sending all distractions backstage. 3. Break tasks into small steps. Large goals can overwhelm us. Instead of saying, I need to finish a research paper, start with, I'll write 1 sentence. Completing a small step releases dopamine, giving you a sense of reward and making it easier to continue. Let's try a quick practice. Set a 25-minute timer, clear your desk, and work on one small task until the timer rings. Feel what true focus is like when the spotlight shines on just one place. Have you noticed how often we procrastinate? It's not always laziness, it's usually because the task feels too big and our brain doesn't know where to start. This is where the Zeigarnik Effect helps. It tells us that our brain remembers unfinished tasks more strongly than finished ones. In other words, once you begin something, your brain keeps a mental reminder running in the background, nudging you to complete it. That's why starting is more important than finishing. Even a tiny first step is enough to set the process in motion. Say you want to read a thick book. Instead of promising to finish a whole chapter, just tell yourself, I'll read one page. Once you start, your brain often says, well, maybe one more. Before you know it, you've read 5 pages. Another trick is called the open loop method. Stop a task in the middle on purpose, for example. Leave a paragraph unfinished when writing. The next day, your brain will be eager to pick it up and finish, making it easier to get back into flow. Here's a quick practice. Grab a book and read just one short passage for 5 minutes. Notice how your brain naturally wants to keep going. Have you ever crammed all night for an exam, only to forget everything the next day? That's because memory needs time to consolidate. The spacing effect shows that learning spread out over time is far more effective than cramming all at once. Think of watering plants. If you dump a whole bucket of water in one go, most of it runs off, wasted. But if you water a little each day, the soil absorbs it, and the roots grow stronger. Memory works the same way. So how can you apply this? If you have 50 vocabulary words to learn, don't try to memorize them all at once. Spread them across 3 days and review them at gradually increasing intervals. For example, review the next day, again 3 days later, then a week later, then a month later. Each interval makes the memory stronger. Next time you're tempted to cram overnight, remember your brain prefers rhythm and spacing, not overload. You've probably heard the saying, "A picture is worth 1,000 words." In psychology, this has scientific support. According to dual coding theory, our brain processes information through 2 channels, verbal and visual. When we use both at once, memory becomes much stronger. It's like saving the same file twice in different folders. Take the solar system as an example. Memorizing Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars as plain text is hard. But if you also draw a simple diagram showing their orbits and pair it with a rhyme or acronym, your brain will lock it in. That's why mind maps, diagrams, and even doodles aren't just decorative, they're powerful memory tools. A couple of tips. When you learn an abstract concept, sketch a simple symbol or diagram for it. When memorizing vocabulary, draw a tiny illustration next to it. Even stick figures work. These little drawings might look childish, but they activate your brain's visual system and strengthen memory. So don't just write words, see them too. Let your eyes and language work together, and your learning will double in power. Our brain is naturally selfish in one way. It prioritizes anything connected to ourselves. This is the self-reference effect. Think about it. You might forget yesterday's news statistics, but if someone tells you you have a great voice, you'll probably remember it for years. Why? Because it relates to you. That means the best way to remember new knowledge is to tie it to yourself. For example, don't just memorize that resilient means able to recover quickly. Instead, say, I am resilient when I face tight editing deadlines. Now, the word isn't just a definition, it's part of your identity. Or let's say you're learning about operant conditioning. Instead of memorizing the textbook definition, recall a childhood memory. When you finished your homework, your parents gave you praise or a reward. That personal story cements the theory into memory. So, whenever you study, ask yourself, how does this connect to me? The moment you find that answer, the information becomes unforgettable. Finally, let's talk about something that affects exams, presentations, and even work performance, context-dependent memory. Our brain often stores memories along with the context where they were formed. For example, you study in a quiet library where the environment is silent. Your brain pairs silence plus reading together. But when you walk into a noisy exam hall, the cues don't match, and suddenly your mind goes blank. What's the solution? Simulate the environment where you'll need the knowledge. Preparing for exams? Practice in a quiet room with only paper and a pen, just like the test. Preparing for a presentation? Rehearse in an empty classroom or office so the atmosphere matches. This way, when the real moment comes, the environmental cues will trigger your memory faster. Here's a practice. Next time you study, change your location. Try your desk, then a cafe, then a park. Varying the context helps your memory become more flexible and accessible in any situation. So far, we've explored 7 powerful psychological effects. These aren't just theories in a textbook, they're practical tools you can use every day. Remember, focus isn't an inborn talent, it's a skill that can be trained. Learning efficiency isn't reserved for a few gifted people, it's something anyone can master with the right methods. So starting today, pick just one of these effects and apply it to your study routine. You'll be amazed at how quickly your focus and efficiency improve. And let me leave you with one final thought. Your brain is like a garden. Whatever you plant, you will harvest. If you nurture it the right way, it will reward you with growth and abundance.